Good morning, everyone on the live call. Thank you for joining. Obviously, for those of you listening to the recording later, you're getting this post live, but we're going to spend an hour or so going through actual AI use cases that are live in companies like mine. I've got a real estate investment firm called Sante Realty Investments. We've been investing in the US and Europe for a long time. There's a management team that runs that. So I spend a lot of my time now coaching and advising. And so that's where this content comes from, not just my own company that's using AI, but other firms, again, that I coach, whether those are founders in groups like EO or CEOs in YPO. That's where the data comes from. So we're going to talk about three specific use cases today. Number one, deal sourcing using AI. Number two, how to do due diligence faster and potentially more thoroughly with AI. And then thirdly, how to get AI to help you with your equity raising. And those three use cases came from a survey we did on a WhatsApp group called AI for CRE Mastermind. If you're not part of it and you want to be part of it, just put a note in the chat and we will add you. And so I'm going to walk through this, but if you do have questions during the call, if you want to ask live, feel free to chime in. If you want to just put in the chat, do that as well. I'm going to toggle back and forth between a couple slides and then actual tools online. So we'll just get started and jump in. A couple things in the slides. I've coded these, so if you want to share them with your team or you want to just make sure you're following along, on the top of the slides, it won't happen when I'm on a direct browser, but on the slides I've got prompts that we use are in purple, inputs like files we're uploading, I just put in black, and then outputs that come from an LLM or an AI tool are going to be shown in orange. And then what I added as well, because I get asked these questions a lot, Jim, how long do these individual tasks take from AI tools to do something? And so we put a little stopwatch icon on some of the slides. A lot of them are so fast, it's probably like seconds, but I put the stopwatch on the slides just so we all have that. So that's the coding for today's session. So I'm going to start with the first one. Before I get into the actual browser, which I'm going to go to and show you live tools, and we're going to go through that, I want to just tell you what we're doing. So I created these graphics. If you guys aren't using Google's tool called Notebook, it's amazing. With a single sentence or two, you get a graphic like this, and it's literally free and takes no time at all. So what's cool is we're going to do scraping of a website of deals. We're going to put it through a filter, it being the website of hundreds of opportunities of properties that we would want to source. We're going to put that through some actual criteria that we've just put together to demonstrate it. And we're going to evaluate those deals and rank them. And so this is something that normally we would have our team of analysts do in our real estate company. And what I want to do is do it live for you. And so I'm going to pop over to the browser, and we've got slides to use in case there's too slow of some of the browser tools, but I think we'll be okay. So let me switch to sharing the browsers. The only reason I'll switch back to the slides is if some of the AI tools are taking longer than I want them to. And so if that's the case, we'll just switch to the slides because I've got those on backup. So instead of ChatGPT, I want to start with the first use case where we're going to actually source the information. So what I'm going to use is Crexi. So I know some of us use Crexi. Some other people in the States at least use things like CoStar. Depending on asset type, you can use Zillow. But all I want to do is show you the concept. And so let's just say that I'm buying multifamily properties in Arizona, and some of this will be straightforward, but it'll show as we build on this. So if I was just searching for multifamily in Arizona and I wanted to find it, I'm going to click search and I'm going to get 225 results. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this resulting URL, which was in the browser, and I'm going to copy it over to a tool you may or may not be familiar with called Appify. And Ellie, you should just make sure I'm showing the right windows when I say these things so I don't make a mistake. But an Appify is essentially a website scraping tool. And here's the crazy thing. So Appify has things they call actors. Think of actors as AI agents. And what I'm going to say is I want to get an actor from Appify to scrape. And if I go back a second, there are over 10,000 pre-made actors or scraping tools, and you can build your own. But for simplicity, I'm just going to say, hey, are there any scraping tools already available? And there are. In fact, there are 1,429 actors that are available. Some suck, some don't work, some have hundreds of users. And so what I'll do is I'll just pick the one that's got almost 300 users. And you see in the top right, I can just try it for free. A lot of these things, and I'll explain today during the webinar how much they cost, but almost all these tools I'll show today, except for one, is between $0 and $20 a month. You see on the left here, if I buy this actor, it's $25 a month plus usage. High ROI to do that. So I'm just going to try it for free for a quick second. And again, if you have questions, please either put them in the chat or interrupt me. And here's the part where I'm going to put in what came from. So I'm just literally putting in the URL from that 225 property search that came up and said Arizona multifamily. And so that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to turn on a couple of features that lets me search this or scrape this, excuse me, with more detail. And then all I'm going to literally do is I'm going to click run as soon as it lets me. Oh, it's got me logged in. There we go. And so what'll happen here when I run this, it's going to go to that website. I'm going to flip back to the Crexi site. It's going to go into every single property here and pull out the data. And that data is going to let us do some pretty cool things in AI. And so when I run this, what'll happen is I'm going to get a list of, so just to show you the output really fast, I'm going to flip over what comes out of that. Give me 1 second. And there we go. So what happens is when I run this in Crexi on the Crexi list, I get the same results, but I have a list now. And in that list, what I can do in the top right, there's a button that says export. So this actor in Applify will let me export all these properties. There are some ways to export directly from that software, but number one, it's usually kind of clunky. Number two, it usually has amounts you can export, like CoStar will have a maximum number you can do. The way I'm showing you this here, not only can you do it with AI, but you can actually automate the AI using something called workflows. And so for those of you who are more advanced in AI, this would be using something like Lindy or make.com or N8N. That will automate what I'm walking everyone through, but you can do this in a manual way with your current team. So you learn how all of these prompts work and what the results look like before you just turn on an automated agent. And so the export button I just clicked on with Crexi is going to give us this output of, in this case, 200 and whatever number of properties, and it just puts it into this CSV file. So you can use it in Excel, you could use it in Google Sheets, etc. And now I'm going to start and saying, okay, now let's really use this in an LLM. And I'm going to use Gemini mostly today because it's been very popular the last several weeks due to its benchmarking results. And so I'm going to put this into Gemini. Before I do that, you see the stopwatch on the top right. Total process of going to Crexi, going to Appify, picking the agent, running the agent, getting all the parameters took about 5 minutes. And so I did this before the call to double check, and that was the case. Now, other states or other longer lists might be more different property types, maybe, but it's literally running without me doing anything. So super cool to use Appify to get the result. And then what'll happen is I can now go to Gemini. And so I want to go to that browser and show you how I would actually upload this. So if I go to Google's Gemini, so just gemini.google.com, I'm going to upload that file. And so in that file I just downloaded, it's a data set called dataset Appify Crexi. So I just simply attach it as the CSV, but then I need a prompt. And so I'll share these prompts with everyone on the call. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell Gemini that I want to analyze this particular attached file, and I want to prioritize it. So what I'm going to show you on the screen is the prompt I'd create. And so this is just simple filter all properties in the attached file in the order to rank them in a table format. I want lowest price per square foot. I want the highest cap rate. I want the largest number of units. And in my criteria, I said that's the most important because we don't like to buy small properties. It's just not efficient. And then I want more recently built. And I'm going to pick thinking model over here so that it gives me more robust results. And so I kick that off. And now Gemini, which I pay for the $20 a month plan, and very similarly, our firm tries different LLMs like ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, etc., DeepSeek, other ones. And so we always go back and forth, and sometimes we even compare models. But it'll run this analysis. Again, we can automate this with an AI agent, but I'm showing it in the manual way. My experience share is that if you've got a team of analysts already, it's probably great to have them do this manual way before you just put in an AI agent that essentially replaces your analysts that source deals, underwrite deals, and take them to investment committee. So as this runs, I can also show what it's doing. And if you're familiar with the LLMs, some of them, most of them in thinking mode will show you what they're doing and how they're coding and how they're analyzing things for you. If you're kind of a nerd, you can check these out. No offense to my fellow nerd friends, but it's going through all this, and now it's giving me the output. And so the output, so I don't know, that took like 30 seconds or something. Here's the top ranked properties based on the logic I gave it. And now what I want to do, because I want to use this as an input, this table, I'm going to export it. And so almost, I think all of the LLMs I work with at least have an easy way to export. Because this is a Google product, it exports to Google Sheets. So I click this button and it simply downloads to my local drive. And so I open it. Ellie, you'll have to tell me if you can still see it.
Yep, I see a spreadsheet, Jim.
Cool. So it's got these properties, and just for the sake of ease, I'm going to say I picked this third one, La Brisa's Apartments, because it looks good. It's listed for $10,750,000. It's 132 units, and I want to explore it. So I'm going to use that as my example today. But now the question is, okay, we've got this property we want to look at. How do we go about analyzing it? So I'm going to switch back to Google Gemini. And I know I'm going at a relatively quick pace, so if it's too fast, I apologize, but I want to maximize take-home value, and I'll give you guys the recording so you can go back and look at this. So let me share this. So I'm saying, Gemini, you're my brainstorming partner, and you're a leading expert to help look at an offering. Okay, so if you recall, in the original Crexy list, there was all these properties, and some of them had OM, some of them didn't, some of them have rent rolls, T12, some of them don't. So what I want to do, I'm just going to show you the logic before I go into that last prompt I was sharing. And the logic that I'm going to do next is to validate and kind of do initial underwriting and due diligence. And so what I want to do on that is a couple steps. And I'm going to use Gemini for it, but I'm also going to use a couple other AI tools that I find really helpful. So the concept is we're going to take inputs now like leases and T12s and OMs. We're going to have Gemini analyze that, and we're going to have it give us some risk factors. It's going to give us some suggestions on pricing. It's going to give us some recommendations on renovation budgets. And it's doing that by looking out online of all the information that it has access to, which not only is written information that may be out on the internet, including things from Blackstone and Starwood, Goldman Sachs, and CapREIT and Sante Realty and every other one of our companies. It actually has video inputs. It's got blogs. It's got podcasts. All those are inputs. And so I want to use those to do some analysis. So when I go back to Gemini, I just want to give you that context before I keep going. Here's that original property, the 10,750,000. It's got an OM attached. And this OM was actually even in front of an NDA, so it's just open on the internet. Not everyone is like that. There's an extra step, and you can even automate that using like a DocuSign. But if it's open, we're going to grab it and use it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload the OM that came for that property. And now, because I selected this property to look at, I'm telling Google Gemini, I'm going back one step. Hey, take a look at the OM and analyze it so that I can find out what's the maximum purchase price for my investors that would give our value add strategy based on renovations and CapEx and what's achievable rent increases to maximize NOI in a reasonable short period of time. And what I'm asking Gemini is to give me a prompt, not that I'm intuitively writing it all and that I'm an expert or what you guys may have heard as a prompt engineer. I'm actually asking Gemini to give me a much more robust, much more thorough prompt to have it do the analysis. And I learned this with our team a few months ago because, quite frankly, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, they create much better prompts than I ever could. And so now what I do is I just say, you're going to give me the prompt. I'm attaching the OM, but I'm saying in thinking mode, give me a prompt to analyze this. In fact, I'll remove the OM first just to get the prompt without any skewing. As it's doing that, it's creating the prompt. Again, I'm going to use to analyze the OM and the property. I think this is one of the insights we had not too long ago that was like, wait, I don't have to create the world's best prompt. In fact, to get the world's best prompt, I do something really important at the bottom as I say, ask me clarifying questions one at a time so that you have the necessary information, Gemini, to give me the right prompt. And so you see what it says. It says, what are the specific IRR and MOIC you're looking to get? And what's the hold period? And obviously you would have this for your own firm, your own investment strategy, but I'm going to say, I want a 14% net IRR for LPs. I want a minimum 1.5 MOIC, and I want the shortest hold period. And so now, because I've told it to ask me clarifying questions, now it takes this as the input to build the prompt, and it's probably going to ask me a couple other clarifying questions. And so I find that much smarter of a way to build a prompt, whether it's me as CEO founder or it's my head analyst or chief investment officer. I want to use all the power of the LLMs in addition to the expertise in my team. So it says, okay, I got it. I'm going to do that. Should we use specific operating expense ratio? A lot of you would know if you're a multifamily that these are pretty easy ratios to get from Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Very similar with CMBS loans. You can do that. Use standard operating expenses unless I upload a historical financial report for the specific property, which I'll do in a second because it was on the listing. And in fact, I think it was in the OM. And then I'll say management fees, and you can even abbreviate these days if you didn't know that. Management fees should be in line with T12, but not more than 10%, including personnel. And obviously there's different ways to slice this with personnel, not personnel, industrial versus multifamily, et cetera. But I'm just giving you the kind of quick and easy way to do it. You want to be more specific with your particular asset class that you're doing. And so if anyone has a question or there's something in the chat, feel free to chime in while I answer these. But I just want to show you how I go through this really fast. And so here it's got how much am I expecting for return on renovation capital. And I would say we want at least a 25% annual ROI on CapEx. If in doubt, don't abbreviate, because then it makes sure that it doesn't have ambiguity or assuming things. But in general, things like ROI, so well known, not a big deal. So it says, okay, I got it. I know what you're going to do. Now, what's the GP LP waterfall structure? Use a standard 2 and 20, 2% asset management fee, 20% promote with a 1% acquisition fee. Even if you don't spell things correctly, like I just had a typo there, still going to be fine. It's not going to be an error like it used to be in older LLMs. let's just say it's asking you 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 questions. I can be like, I'm done answering questions, just run it. But now it's giving me the output. So here's a comprehensive prompt. It's built with my inputs. And so now I'm going to literally copy and paste this to Gemini, even though it just created this. I could probably say use the prompt as well, but it even has what's the required output that I want. And think about this as what you would expect your analyst to come to you with on a deal that they thought was interesting. What I'll do is I'll say, great, here's the prompt. I'm going to upload the OM like I showed before and use that OM just literally straight from the internet. And I know that the OM also has a T12 and a rent roll. So I just pulled those off. I'm going to just upload them here just so that I have them. I'm going to use this rent roll and I'm going to use this T12. And I think that's some pretty basic information that our analysts would normally have to do an analysis. I'm going to keep it in thinking mode and then I'm going to kick it off. And so it's literally reading the OM and using a technology called OCR, which a lot of us have used for a long time, but it's also digesting the T12, the rent roll. And don't forget, I asked it to say, what's the renovation budget we should have? So it's going to go out and look at market comps for that. It's going to also look at rent rates. What can we really achieve in this market, in this town in Arizona, where this property is located, which is Sierra Vista. And I happen to know, because I grew up down by that area, that there's a major military base there. And so that's why I picked it. So there's some intuition we'd still use. So as that's running, I will also look next to show you, once we get that output, what the next step is to build a pro forma. So let's say I want to build a pro forma specifically for this property. I can do that using a tool called shortcut.ai. And so I'm going to go to that. And again, I know I'm speaking fast and showing a lot, but please feel free to interrupt me. So the tool I'm going to go to next, the site is called tryshortcut.ai. If you type in shortcut.ai, it's going to give you the same thing. But this is literally what it looks like if you go there. It looks like Excel had a baby with an LLM, because over here on the right is where I'm going to type in a prompt underneath the shortcut on the right side. I'm going to give it a prompt. Now, of course, I'm going to give it a prompt that I'd create from Gemini, because my basic 1, 2, 3 sentence prompt is not going to be as robust as Gemini. So I'm going to use Gemini for a prompt here as well. We'll go back to Gemini. Now, Gemini's running the analysis on the apartment. I'm going to create another search at the same time, and I'm going to build out the prompt for the pro forma. And so what I'm going to say here is, okay, give me a prompt for tryshortcut.ai to build a robust financial model for a multifamily investment property using certain inputs and variables. Ask me clarifying questions one at a time so that you have the right prompt for shortcut. In this case, I'm going to use fast mode. So it's going to say, great, what's the unit mix for the property? I'm going to say use attached rent roll for unit mix. And if I didn't have that, I could obviously type it in, but I'm lazy. So I'm just going to use the rent roll. It also says, would you like me to provide other income? And so like RUBS, and I'm going to say use a single other income input, not multiple other income line items. But you could have utilities, you could have parking, you could have recoveries of different things. Of course, in commercial properties, you can have CAMs, etc. So I'm just telling it for multifamily what we want. And then as it is looking there, I can always toggle back to see what's happening with the property analysis. So first of all, just because this came up quickly, I'll do this. It said, here's the in-place rents for studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms from the rent roll. And I'm going to put a single other income. And now what should be the purchase property? What is the purchase price for this? And so before I get there, here's what I want to do. I'm going to go back to the Gemini search that is analyzing the offering memorandum and other inputs. And what it says, I'm scrolling down, it's calculating, it's saying here, let me scroll to the bottom because it's giving us a lot of output. And I'm showing all the detail, which I probably didn't need to do. So here's what it's doing on the first OM analysis. It's showing you how it thinks about it, which is really cool for our analysts to learn, and oftentimes follows what they do intuitively if they've been an analyst for a few years. But you can also see if it's making some wrong assumptions. And so again, before we automate AI agents in companies, we highly recommend you do this manually to see how the AI works before you decide, yeah, that's what we want from a renovation lift and from refining financials and from analyzing market data. This is helpful to see how it goes in thinking mode, but after a while, it'll learn you, it being the Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude will learn your firm, and you won't have to do that information. And so it's going to come back with the results. I'm going to toggle back to the property. I'm going to say, determine the purchase price that will allow us to achieve the net IRR to LPs of 14%. And so it's got the ability to dynamically think, what do I've got to do to look at the cost of debt? And I've got to look at the price, and I've got to look at rent rates, and I've got to look at market rates, and I've got to do all these things that our analysts are typically doing over hours, sometimes days. And so it's asking about operating expenses. Again, it didn't remember what I said before. So if I turn on memory in this, it would do that. So I'm going to say use attached T12 operating expenses to determine actual ratio. And I'm just going to reattach. There's some other ways to do this, but for simplicity, I'm going to reattach the T12. And that way it can just look and see what it is. And so as I'm building this all out, it's continuing to know more and more about this project. And so when I go over to try shortcut in a minute to build out the pro forma for the full property, it's going to almost like one shot build an entire pro forma from scratch, which is going to be pretty cool. Now here it's saying, okay, I've got the expense ratio. What are the debt assumptions? And what I'm going to say is use standard debt assumptions for a Fannie Mae multifamily loan. And so again, it can go out and look at that, and it's going to look at real-time information. So if Fannie and Freddie have been changing their parameters, it's going to go out and get literally what's new today as of recording of this on Fannie and Freddie's website. And so it's figured that out. It's even put in the idea of IO, which I didn't put in there, but of course I'll take it. And then it's asking about GPLP waterfall. And I'm going to say the pref is a 7%, have GP get a catch up afterward. And so sometimes it'll come back and actually say, do you want to have a catch up? Do you want to have a retention? Do you want to have different things that I didn't necessarily think of? And so sometimes it actually helps me build even more robust models, which I'll show here momentarily. I'm going to say exit cap must be at least 100 basis points lower than acquisition cap rate. Otherwise, we wouldn't sell it. We would just hold it in cash flow, typically. And so, unless there was some commitments or pressure of our fund to sell, I'm going to say research market rents online for comparable properties using the higher end of rent rates in this market, since we will be renovating and improving the property. And so now I'm going to switch this from fast to thinking. So it will go out and literally research what are the comps, what are rent rates, how much are we going to spend in renovations, And so these are things we'd normally have analysts do. We'd have websites they'd go on, they'd click through a bunch of things. This is going to do it for me in the background. And so it's taking current rent rates and doing that. But I'm going to say property is located in Sierra Vista, Arizona. So as it finishes that, I want to get back to building the pro forma really fast. So you're seeing how we use an LLM to get the inputs, but the real beauty here is when we create the pro forma. And if you have your own Argus or your own internal model, you can upload those here, modify that using an LLM with your own financial model, and it will stay proprietary to you. So that's pretty cool. Now, tryshortcut.ai is the one tool that we pay extra for because it's so powerful, which I'll show in a minute. So we upgraded from the $20 a month plan that just limits how many models you can build. We upgraded from that to the $200 a month plan. So it's still incredibly helpful for us. And so I just need the prompt. So now what I want to do is, now that I've done all these inputs, and I've got Gemini searching in two places, so forgive me for toggling here, but we've got information about the property, we've got the analysis going, and at the same time, I need a prompt to build the CapEx. And so use 15,000 renovation budget per door and finish the prompt. Now, if I was actually working on a real deal, I would let this thing ask me 20 questions in order to build the most robust prompt because it's just well worth the time. So now it knows it's building a prompt for tryshortcut.ai, and I'm going to use this prompt to build a financial model. And so it just says copy and paste it into tryshortcut, which I know. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And this is all I'm doing. So I go to tryshortcut. I just need to make sure I'm logged in. Yep, I'm logged in. And I just literally copy and pasted that. Now, what you'll see when I click go, this often comes back, and on the right side in the window, it'll ask me a couple clarifying questions, even though I spent all that time building the prompt, and that'll help build a more robust model. Now, so it's saying, I can help you plan this. And so I clicked yes, just to show you what's happening. On the left, you'll see tabs being built as we actually have the model build the pro forma for us. And it can build a pro forma for a fund. It can build it for a syndication. It can build it for a complex waterfall. It can do all kinds of things. And so now you see it's asking questions 1 of 4 about acquisition pricing. Do we want to back solve? Do we want to provide a purchase price, or do we want to use an acquisition cap rate? And I'm just going to say, I want to back solve for IRR. So I'm going to just say, because that's the way we're going to determine the price. I don't want to pay a certain cap rate or price. I want to actually solve for IRR, as you saw in the prompts. Now, it's giving me the second question of 4. Remember, it said there's 4 questions. So the second question of 4 in the right window is what's the renovation timing and rent phase in? And I'm going to say, I can go all in year 1. I can do renovations on turnover. I can do a hybrid approach. And these, again, are questions that we would typically have an analyst ask us, or we'd go to our operations team or construction department and say, okay, how are we doing it? What's the trade-off of, lost rents if we do it this way? And what's the turnover of leases expiring? And we do a whole bunch of work to figure this out. And you can iterate and try shortcut to do that. But for sake of simplicity, I'm just doing a quick one. And so vacancy assumption, I'm just going to say it's A because it's close to a military base and it's pretty full there. Although I could certainly say go check the market and analyze it and look at unemployment and look at housing permits and looking at all kinds of things. It could actually give me what it thinks, but I'm doing it for simplicity. And then the last one on the GPLP capital, I'm going to say we're going to put in 10% as the GP, and we're going to do 90% LP equity. I can also syndicate GP's portion in a model here, but for time, I won't do that. So now that it's got its 4 questions answered, it's telling me it's going to have an implementation plan to build the model. This is, again, prior to AI, I'd start talking to an analyst and say, yeah, that makes sense. Do it this way, etc. or at least refine our internal model a certain way. And so now I'm just going to tell it to execute the plan. If you haven't used Try Shortcut, you'll start to see tabs on the bottom left start to get populated. And as it does that, I'll scroll down here on the right. You can kind of see what it's doing and how it's thinking, which I find interesting. Sometimes I'll actually see it make a mistake and I'll go back and change that. It's going to ask questions as it goes. Normally I would do one at a time and make sure it builds it the exact way I want. Again, just for time's sake, I'm going to say accept all and build it. Going through the first time, I would suggest you do it slowly and methodically before you just kind of know what it's going to build you. You see on the left, it's already created an inputs tab, monthly cash flow, annual summary, a waterfall, and a return summary tab. And now it's populating it with data. And you'll remember it took the prompt from Gemini, but I didn't upload anything into Try Shortcut. I didn't upload the T12. I didn't upload the OM. I didn't upload the rent roll. And so it's going to put in some filler information. And then I'm going to go ahead after it creates those cells. And I'm going to use this little attachment file. And I'm going to actually attach those inputs so that those inputs then give it the exact details to use in the model. And so as this model builds out, I'll click on the tabs on the bottom. You'll see some are blank. It hasn't built them out yet. It's building from left to right. And so as it's analyzing and reviewing things in the window on the right, it's continuing to build out inputs based on acquisitions inputs, operations inputs, debt inputs. And so it'll build that out. I probably spend with our team now 20 minutes building something like this out for an individual property. The first time took a couple hours because we were asking it to go back and make sure nothing has a circular reference, go back and make sure nothing's hard coded, go back and triple check the IRR calculations, make sure that the multiple on invested capital is calculated using maximum equity deployed, not average equity deployed. And so all the knowledge you have in your organizations, I think still are very applicable. This just happens in minutes or maybe hours instead of days or weeks, depending on how long it takes your analyst to do these things. And so as that builds out, what I want to do is I also want to show you how we would build a pitch deck. And so from this model, I'm going to go to ChatGPT just so I don't skew anything on the Gemini real fast as this builds out. I'm just going to let this run and we will come back to it in just a second. So if I go to ChatGPT, and so what I'm going to say is I need you to build me a prompt to build a pitch deck, and I'm going to use a tool called skywork.ai. Now, some of you heard of Gamma or Beautiful, or it's similar. This actually has a built-in deep research, and so we're using skywork.ai as of mid-December 2025, and I'm going to tell it the prompt needs to demonstrate how great the tools are. So for the OM and the financial model, we're going to upload that to Skywork. Just kick that off, and it's giving me the prompt to put into Skywork. Now, if I show you what Skywork looks like, it's a little bit of a messy interface, but it's so good that in its agent mode, which you have right here in the middle, I'm going to copy and paste the prompt I'm creating into the middle, and I'm going to attach the OM. So when I go to upload in its terms, I'm going to upload the OM. I did this yesterday, so it says it's already there. Great. So now I'm going to look at the prompt, and it's giving me this really robust prompt for Skywork. And it's going to tell it to do a deep dive research. It's going to look at IRR analysis. It's going to look at investor grade risks. It's going to give me the output in these particular logical pitch deck slides in this order. And it's even got the tone and the presentation mode. If you have your own design, you can put your own company design in there. And it even says it's a final deliverable. I want a complete pitch deck. I'll probably use this for a live webinar. So that's the prompt I will use for Skywork. And now what I also want to do, just to show how things connect, I'm going to use the financial model. And so if we look at the financial model as an input, I'm going to toggle back to it. And it's running here. Let me go to the bottom. And as it runs and builds out these various tabs, I'm just going to show you what the result looks like really fast because it's pretty cool. So if I switch, it just takes I probably overloaded the system, but it takes, I would say again, 20 minutes to work through what that looks like. And I'll show you on my other screen the output I just did right before this call. So what Try Shortcut is building is, in this case, only had 4 tabs. It didn't have the return summary, but it got all the inputs. Now, all these inputs that are in blue, I can change these because these are where the inputs go into the model. It's got a rent roll. You see in-place rents. It did the research for market rents, post-renovation rents, etc. It's got cash flow. And so it's got revenue, losses, and concessions, operating expenses, CapEx, debt service, cash flow, everything you'd normally build. It did this in less than 20 minutes. It's got a waterfall of how much different tiers of IRR hurdles and the splits were, and then what those economics look like. And then it's got total economics for LPs and GP distribution. And then it's got the percentages. And again, it's even done a validation check. So I'm going to use this as an input. And so if you use Try Shortcut, that's kind of the output you get. We've done some pretty robust financial modeling in it, again, with syndicated GPs, multiple LP structures, etc. And it is not flawless, but as you like, just ask it, hey, make sure there's no circular references, make sure air handling is working, etc. It's pretty impressive. And so getting used to it probably doesn't take more than a couple hours. So now back into the browser, Skywork, and I'm going to go ahead and just add that output as another attachment. So I uploaded the OM, and I'm going to upload, and I know we're getting close to the hour, so I'll do this quickly. I'm going to upload the financial model. La Brisa Way is what Try Shortcut created. And I'm going to confirm that. And now I'm going to tell Skywork to read this prompt, digest the offering memorandum, look through the financial model, and build me a pitch deck. So it is going to have a few questions. I'm going to say I want to answer really quickly a couple things. You can just tell it to go. I'm a little bit more, I don't know, analytical, that I don't like it to just go on its own. So we will give it some direction. It'll ask things like, how long of a pitch deck do you want? 10 slides or 30 slides? Do you want me to do the deep research and build charts and graphs, or do you want me to just put placeholders? Do you want me to use your images, or do you want me to grab some from the internet? We iterate a couple times with these pitch decks, but we find by probably what would have taken in effort, say it would take 8 to 12 hours minimum to build a compelling pitch deck with research and graphs and charts with a very senior team member. We'll take those 12 hours of labor, and we probably do this in less than 1 hour, worst case scenario. So we're saving at least 12x on our time. And so as this starts to generate the presentation, I want to show you what it looks like, and we'll wrap up. And if there's questions, happy to take them. And if there's questions later, you can always reach out to us. But I wanted to show how we use the LLMs, how we use the financial modeling tools, and how we use Skywork to build pitch decks. We also then will take the pitch deck as a last thing, and we'd go back to Gemini or ChatGPT, and we'd say, now create an investor outreach campaign. So whether we're reaching out to institutional LPs, family offices, high net worth individuals, will modify the wording in an outreach campaign that's built out in Gemini or ChatGPT. And so these are the slides that Skywork has decided it's going to make for us, different titles of each slide. And as it generates, you'll start to see that it's using what I'll call institutional quality graphics to build that. So as this builds, I'll let this just keep showing. In the chat, some of you have asked, how do we get in contact? My email's in there, but you can also see us on billiondollar.coach is where I do my coaching website. Again, the WhatsApp group I can add you to. It's AI for CRE Mastermind. Now, I will tell you, our experiences, they're not perfect the first time, but they are far in a way better than our standard first presentations we'd been building for years in PowerPoint. And they also have pretty correct math. They've got some amazing charts and graphs. It's got investment highlights that it's built out here. I would tell you that my sense is that these are institutional quality level presentations. Some of the graphics, again, will be stock photos we can replace with the property or renovation works, but the pie charts and graphs and layouts and comparisons and unit mix, all these are kind of one shot correct. Even the market comparisons, the unit mix, the vacancy rates, it's pulled all of that data from the internet from doing a deep research. Now we'd want to validate it before we send this out to investors, but validating things using like a perplexity.ai takes seconds. Quite frankly, sometimes days go to weeks when we were building these before. And so it shows the value add strategy, the rent premium analysis, financial model upside, what's the lift, the cash flow growth strategy, returns on IRR and multiple on invested capital, waterfall distribution, GPLP mix, sensitivity downside analysis based on cap rates and market. Then what's cool is I can download this and modify it because I can download it as Google Slides or I can download it as PowerPoint, and then we can tweak it. The other thing we can do is we can simply edit it here in Skywork. We can edit either one slide at a time, or we can edit the whole thing. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you. We can share this deck. I can share the model. We can share the slides, but to be respectful of everyone's time, I wanted to wrap there. We will send out the recording afterwards. If you want to share this with your team, we're totally fine with that. I just want to share a couple last slides before we go. If you want to consider doing anything for your team or yourself, we do some pretty deep dives and we're doing some workshops. Later, we can even show how we build a virtual investment committee. You can have people like Sam Zell and Barry Sternlick and Jonathan Gray and all these people on your virtual investment committee, and it can look at your individual deals based on all the things they would say they would look at. And so there's some pretty cool things. If you're interested in joining us for actually building these for your company, we do have a workshop coming up. And so I'll just display that because we get asked about it a lot, and happy to take any questions and stay as long as anyone would like to. If you have a phone, you want to scan that QR code, you can see more about workshops where you can build these tools and you can build workflows in AI agents. You can build bots for how it interacts for your team. But very importantly, if you are interested in the workshop, please use the code at the bottom of that screen. It gives you a significant discount, whether you're in YPO, EO, or whatever. We want to make sure that we share that with you. And so you can go to the website, learning about the workshop. Don't pay full price. It's guaranteed 10x return on your investment going to the workshop. I hate to see people waste money. So if you sign up for either the January class in person in Phoenix, 8th to 9th, there's an overflow class in February and March, please use the 25% off discount code. I will open it up to live questions while I look through the chat. Any?
The question about template.
Yeah.
Skywork.
Thank you. So the tools we showed, the Try Shortcut AI financial model definitely works off your existing financial model, no problem. And then also the Skywork works off your existing presentations or brand briefs if you have those. So you can definitely do that. And over time, I would even say in Gemini or ChatGPT, you'd have your own prompts that you want to use so it can work off of those as well. So, Jonathan, if you want to unmute and ask more, happy to take your question, my friend.
First of all, Jim, this is awesome. I've attended a lot of these. This is probably the most pragmatic and useful one that I've been part of. So I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I think we're fairly active on a number of these fronts. Seeing how you're using it is helpful. Just with the origination side of the business and scraping, can you just talk a little bit more about whatever processes you're using to spot the ARB, so to speak? Sift through a lot of the data and just see where you think opportunity may be.
Yeah.
If there's any tools you're using around that.
Yeah, we're definitely using Apify as a scraping tool. There's certain terms and conditions of various listing sources, whether it's CoStar or Crexi, but we do use those. and even brokers' websites or subscriptions to distribution lists for CBRE or JLL or whomever. We use that as well. And what happens is we bring all those in and we use an AI agent. So our AI agent runs 24 hours a day and it looks at deals. We have certain things that we tell it to look for. So we're only looking in 30 markets in the US. It has to be in those markets. We're only looking for a certain size of property in square feet or number of units. We're only looking for a certain age of properties. All of that's being done with an AI agent, automated. And then we do what's called human in the loop, where the human then comes into the office in the morning and has a list of properties, of opportunities that are literally saved by forecasted IRR. And so our analysts will look at the highest IRR forecasted by the AI agent overnight and start looking at those and seeing if it's correct or not correct or refining that. And so building out that AI agent using things like Appify and other tools is kind of what the AI agent does 24/7. And then the humans, for us, it's analysts, they look at the literally, like for us, it's like a Dropbox. Every morning, they just see the file name is saved by IRR. So they just start at the highest IRR and they start looking through those and start working on those deals. And so that's how we do it. And at that workshop in January, we'll be building out some of those AI agents for members that attend. This workshop, by the way, I didn't say it, but it's forum sized. It's only for eight or 9 people per month. We're very hands-on. So you can come here with us and build these out for your own firm. We're going to do it live and show you how to do it. If you want to hire someone to come to your office and do it or do it remotely, we can give you some people that have done that for us. Those are running probably 75,000 to 100,000 to build those out, but you're saving hundreds of thousands a year just on labor. So there's multiple ways to do it, but yes is the short answer. We do it in the workshops.
That's assuming there's a listing price or purchase price. Otherwise, you have to assume a price to kind of get there, I assume.
Yeah, what we do is we build in our investment criteria. So if it's an unlisted price, we will, so let's just say there's listings, but it's unlisted. We will tell it, we need a certain IRR. So like an example today, we need a 14% IRR for our LPs net of fees. So then we will have the agent tell us, hey, here's the property, it's unlisted. The most we can pay is 550,000. Well, that actually then creates a LOI that we send out to that broker saying, we're in the ballpark of this price. I know you say it's unlisted and I don't care about your whisper price. Here's what we can pay. If that's worth talking, call us back. So we can deal with unlisted prices as well. We can also deal with unlisted properties. You've got to have your own investment criteria though.
Thank you.
I appreciate the questions. Anyone else, please feel free to ask anything live. I know we're running over a little bit, so I apologize for that. Just want to get in.
Do you mind if I ask one
No.
other thing?
Go ahead, Jonathan.
Is it a flowing system or is it choppy? Is one flowing right into the other or you're breaking it into chunks?
We break the AI agent into chunks because we want humans in the loop to verify each step. Imagine a manufacturing facility. We don't want to manufacture a car all the way through and be like, oh crap, the frame is bent. So we stop the agents in distinct workflows. So we would have almost like you'd have in your own business, right? You'd have an analyst team that does sourcing and initial underwriting. I'd have a separate capital markets team that does capital markets. We may have a separate marketing team that does outbound marketing. So the way the business is already built is the way we build the AI agents. Number one, it fits better into the business. Number two, we really need humans in the loop today. We can't just turn it on, automate it, and let it go. I do think we'll be there in the next 3 years to 5 years, but today we do it in segments.
Great, thank you.
You're totally welcome. I love the questions. I'm sure other people benefit from them, so thanks for asking. Any other questions before we wrap? I know some people had to bounce, but there's still plenty here, so I'm happy to answer. Anything else?
Have you explored any off-market deal sourcing using AI?
Yes. So what we'll normally do is we'll go to databases of properties that exist. Let me just do an example. If you have a subscription to CoStar and you go in there and you sort properties based on you want hospitality assets in Virginia or something, very few of them may be for sale. The vast majority are not for sale. And so we'll download those according to the terms and conditions we're adhering to with that subscription, because CoStar is pretty dogmatic in its rules. And then we will sort through that using our AI tools. And then we can even send out offers or interest letters to the people that own those properties. Obviously, a lot of times they're LLCs, so we've got to use some skip tracing methods to send to them, but we can source unlisted properties from the fact that they already exist in the real world. And then we automate sending out letters of interest to those groups. Nowadays, we're actually using a service called Telvana that's actually doing outbound phone calls as well. So with Nexus, Lexus, Dun and Bradstreet, you can get phone numbers of the ultimate beneficial owner of LLCs that own properties. We have an AI system that calls out. Most of the time it leaves voicemails, but it's leaving voicemails saying, hey, we're really interested in your property at 123 Main Street. We know it's not listed for sale, but we're a robust group. We've got a great track record. Please call us. So yes is the short answer to your question.
What are you using for the outbound campaigns?
We can use things if we're doing, depends what we're outbounding with. If it's email, we'll use like a get response that feeds into HubSpot. We use Telvana for voice if we're doing robots to make phone calls that sound very human. If it's texting service, we use a different platform. So it just depends.
Do you get nervous with robots calling people, but they can keep up? Because I don't feel like they're quite there yet. And honestly, if somebody asks if you're a robot, I don't know if there's any regulatory requirement to disclose.
Yeah, in consumers, there's regulatory things for robots calling. Telvana is an EO-owned company. It's incredibly impressive. We have found that number one, we disclose that it's an automated caller, and it says, "Hi, I'm an automated caller from Sante Realty Investments. We scour thousands of properties a day. We're really interested in one that you've got. It's not listed for sale, but if you ever decide to sell, I can connect you with our principal, Jim Small, and blah, blah, blah." So we don't try to trick people. We just disclose it. But if you just go to Telvana, I think it's telvana.ai or telvana.com, there's a phone number on there. You can try and test it yourself. But our premise is we're not tricking people pretending to be a human when it's a robot, but it's really good as a robot today.
Have you had actual success with that?
Yes. And we're even doing it for condo sales. So we're reaching out to people more as a follow-up. If someone's interested, like they take a tour, we're trying to follow up instead of having humans call and follow up and provide more information and let them know what's available and how pricing is going to change. We've just started to implement outbound follow-up calls for condo sales. So we're not doing those cold. Those are warm because they've already toured a property or added interest. I think we're at the very early days of AI outbound callers. Inbound has worked for a long time, but groups like Telvana and others can also be multilingual. So in places like Arizona or Miami, if someone answers in Spanish, it'll talk to you in Spanish. They're just really cool. And I think right now it's kind of the phase of playing with the tools and seeing how they work. It's not replacing your whole staff with AI here in January 2026, but I found that we're using the tools, getting comfortable with the tools, learning the limitations of the tools, and getting ready for them to get better and better, which they are on a weekly basis.
Thanks, that's helpful.
You're welcome. So we'll send out the recording. We'll also send out the slide deck just so you guys have it and you want to share it. If this is helpful, throw a comment in the chat. Let us know. Happy to do this. Obviously, there's no cost to this, clearly, but we do a very robust workshop, and that's, to be just fully transparent, that's where we monetize some of this. Some of it I coach YPOers and EOers that want to be coached in how to use AI to raise capital or source deals. And so if that's of interest, great. But I'll stick with our non-soliciting rules. But this stuff is super fun for me. And so if I can be of any help, please feel free to reach out, use our resources. Totally happy to share. Be active on the WhatsApp group for AI for CRE Mastermind. Ask questions, share tools. We're all learning. So thank you for attending. Really appreciate your interest. We'll send this out and we'll see if we do another one next month. But meanwhile, have happy holidays to everybody. And thank you very much. Bye for now.